Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Everything is good, man. For those who are listening, me and Gabar, we decided to come together and just go through the usual scriptures when it comes to the terms or when it comes to understanding the concept or the conditions of Israel keeping the covenant, or in other words, the purpose. We understand the Most High set aside a group of people to carry out His word, His ways, and His traditions, and usher men into this planet and to establish His kingdom. We understand that through Abraham's seed. Now, commonly in the Hebrew Israelite world or paradigm, that is something that we will all agree with. But for some reason, and not necessarily me and Gabar, because we have that same understanding, but for some reason, what we're starting to notice when it comes to the online Hebrew, because the Hebrew Israelite pretty much we have a heavy following online. For some reason, the purpose of Israel has been negated, and it's all about showing off and being a snare to the nations instead of being a light to the nations. Israel were picked and set apart to be the priests of the Most High. So now all of a sudden, the priests are to serve. So what does it mean to serve? When the Most High had made the covenant with Abraham, what did Abraham understand it? What did he understand? How did he see it? How did he perceive it? And then when the covenant was made with when the covenant was made with Israel, who mediated through Moses, how did they understand this? How did they perceive it? And so forth. So hopefully this evening we'll bring out some clarity according to the scriptures, according to how the Most High laid it out, and hopefully the Most High willing that His will and His will be done, and all be edified. If there's anything you would like to say, Gabar?
Well, as you already have stated, the purpose of Israel, we definitely want to go into this and try to paint the proper picture for folks who are coming into this walk and gaining an understanding of who they are according to the scriptures, so that way they know how to conduct themselves. We also, as we get into this back and forth with each other, we will try to come to an agreement, so that way we can show the people what the purpose of Israel is. Because as you said, online the following is very heavy, and but with that there is a lot of confusion on what the purpose is, and there is some divide because of that. So through the grace of the Most High, I hope that this conversation that we're about to have can help bring together some clarity and some unity on this topic. Now, I know that we differ on some things, but hopefully, as we dialogue and as we share information back and forth, we can definitely show what the purpose of Israel is, and then being a priesthood, and what their intent is, what the Most High intended for Israel to do.
And we also understand that there's only one individual who carried out the will of the Father. And he's known by different names. Various people say JC or Jesus Christ or Yeshua or Yahweh Shai. Well, we all understand this individual is to be the only person to carry out the will of the Father. So if you would like to go first, brother, anything you would like to open up with, any in particular scriptures or any type of questions you may want to open up with, brother, the floor is yours.
Okay.
You still kind of choppy, Sal.
Yeah, real choppy, Sal.
I'm going to continue.
Gabar?
Yeah. So while Sal gets that taken care of over there, what I want to do is I want to open up with Galatians first. Galatians 5. Galatians 5 and 22 to 23. Okay, so I want to start there. Galatians chapter 5.
Idea.
Kind of with the spirit is moving, my brother. Okay, so Galatians chapter 5 verse 22 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law." Okay, so for those who are coming into the knowledge of who they are, you got to get this understanding first, all right, to know what the purpose is. Because the Messiah, he exhibits these things. He exhibits these 9 fruits that are not going against the Torah. Okay, so these things you got to understand. And I'm thankful to the Father that he showed me this early in the walk when I was first getting this knowledge. He showed me this early. Otherwise, I could have been caught up with a lot of what goes on online and out in our community with the pride that goes on. The Most High really guided me through and actually getting some understanding on each of these individually to understand what all these are about and how they work together as a cohesive unit. So we definitely got to understand that first. Before we even get into the prophecy, about the nation of Israel and then being reestablished as a priesthood and any of those things, if you don't have this, you looking ahead to getting salvation and being in the kingdom is of no relevance to you because you don't understand this first. Okay, so we definitely got to understand this before we even go forward. Another place I want to go to, I just want to piggyback off of something that you said. I want to go to Leviticus 25 and 55. All right, the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 55 says, "For unto me the children of Israel are servants. They are my servants whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your God." All right, so we got to understand that we are servants of the Most High. All right, a lot of us, and what I've seen, even though I haven't been on social media in a while, I'm pretty sure it still goes on. A lot of us get caught up in, I'm a king, or I'm a queen. You got to be a servant first. All right, you got to be a servant to the Most High first. Okay, before you can even be crowned anything, you got to be able to serve the Most High and do what he wants you to do, just as the Messiah served his Father and did his will. All right, we gotta understand and do that same thing because we need to be an example. All right, and in the past, whenever I was coming together with brothers and we were trying to get things going, and we would think of a name to call the group, we had went back and forth on, man, should we put the name Israel in it? Should we say that we Hebrews? Should we say that we are the children of Israel? Should we say that we are Israelites? Should we say that? And the reason why is because there's a stigma with being a Hebrew Israelite. There is a stigma with that. And because of that, you begin to question whether or not you want to put it in the title of what you're representing. All right. So Israel kind of has a bad name because, again, the purpose is becoming lost, and we need to get back to the purpose. Now, that's not to negate any of the prophecies that comes to pass, concerning judgment and, dealing with the other nations and things like that. And again, we will get into that, Most High willing. But we got to understand what the purpose is for the children of Israel and what our duty is, okay? So with that, I'll go ahead and yield, and I'll turn it over to Brother B.A. if you got anything you want to say or add.
Yeah, just I
Hold
just
on,
wanted to.
mic check. 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me now? Mic check.
You good? You're good.
Yeah, you loud and clear.
You still all
right,
straight, Brett.
y'all. So I'm about to
for sure.
the difficult family.
It's all good, Brett. I just wanted to go into 1 Timothy about proper behavior, what my man Gabar was just sharing with us when it comes to meekness and things of that nature. And this is something that we all need to take into consideration when we call ourselves being converted, because to be called Israel, that means you're supposed to be changed. We see when Moses was leading the children of Israel out of captivity from their oppressor, the Egyptians, for us who believe in the baptism. And this message is for those who are seeking and for those who believe in the baptism and the concept of Mashiach or Yeshua or Christ. So when Israel was being led out of captivity, going into the baptism, their minds had to be changed. And this is the behavior of those who call themselves by the name of Israel. And Timothy most definitely talks about it. Paul talks about it in a letter to Timothy. And this is the mindset that we should have. I'm reading from a Greek interlinear version, 1 Timothy chapter 2, and it reads, "First of all, then I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving be made for everyone, for kings and all who are in high positions, so that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and dignity. This is the right hand and is acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who desires everyone to be saved and to come to the knowledge of truth. For there is one God. There is also one mediator between God and humankind, which is Christ himself, human, who gave himself a ransom for all." Ain't that something? This reads verse 7. "For this I was appointed a herald and an apostle. I am telling the truth, I am not lying. A teacher of the Gentiles and faith in truth." Verse 8. "I desire then that in every place the men should pray, lifting up holy hands without anger or argument." Think about that. What is common amongst the so-called Hebrew online? A bunch of big mouth fussing Negroes. That is the stigma that my man Gabar just was mentioning. That's the stigma. And we're becoming a snare to those who are watching us. The purpose of Israel was to be a light, to be seen. And what was to stand out? The behavior, the conduct, to be converted, to be changed, and to represent who? The Most High God. That's the purpose. Abraham wasn't called Israel because of his skin color. He was changed because he relied and he allowed the Most High to oppose his will upon him. That's what it means to be Israel, to wrestle, to go back and forth, and to fully rely on the Most High. That's what it means to go by the name of Israel. And that's why we understand what Christ said himself. He said, for those, the broad gates lead to destruction, but it's the narrow gates, salvation, they find it. And I'm paraphrasing, but you guys know what I mean. So right there, our behavior, number one, that's got to change. That's got to change, number one. If we want to, because we have a mandate, it is our job, it is our duty to bring people in from a distance. There's something that they see. It's about seeing the light. But you're not a light when you turn people away. You're not. But there are people who I've had conversations with who will sit back and tell me, show me where it says in the scriptures that we're supposed to be a light to the nations. I have literally heard that. And those individuals, you got to pray for them and move on and get the dirt off your shoulders and just continuously pray for them and continue with your purpose. And before I go any further, Brother Gabar, you got anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to get another scripture quick. Colossians chapter 3 and verse 8. Colossians 3 verse 8 says, "But now ye also put off all these, anger, wrath, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth." All right, now, for those of you who have tuned into shows in the past and had the privilege of being available to listen whenever I was on there, if that time was allotted to you, or if you have, you can go back and listen to some of the shows that I've been on in the past. And the thing that you gotta check is your mouth, the things that you say, because again, that the scriptures addresses how you speak, what you say, and how you say it, and that's within the 90 percentile. Okay, whenever I've studied things concerning the tongue, it's heavy. You can do a plethora of teachings on just the tongue itself. Okay, and you have to make sure that you have the fruits of the Spirit in your mouth. All right, you got to have these fruits in your mouth, which is why when you go to Proverbs 18, it talks about that life and death are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. All right, so which fruit are you eating? Are you eating corrupt fruit? Do you have corrupt fruit in your mouth, or do you have fruit that brings forth life coming out of your mouth? Okay, these are the things that you got to have, so that way whenever one sees you speaking, it also can exhibit that someone can learn from through example, not just through hearing, but because it shows forth an example. Okay, of course you got to have the actions that follow behind it. All right, but if you don't have the actions, then that means that the words you are speaking are deceit and they're lies. So of course you can't have that. So again, it goes back to what you say. All right. Even when we dealing with the children of Israel, whenever they would make agreements and things had to be done in writing, it was always a verbal agreement first. Even when children of Israel, even when the children of Israel came out of Egypt and they made that covenant with the Most High at Mount Sinai in Exodus 24, what did they say first? Before the blood covenant, they had to speak it first. All that thou hast said, we will do.
That's in Exodus 19.
So they had to speak it first. So we gotta, when we are reading these scriptures, we need to be teaching our mouth how to speak. We got to get it in our mind so that way it'll translate out of our mouth, and that's what the Messiah taught. That which is in abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Okay, so again, we gotta have that proper conduct and how we are speaking. Okay, it's not about being the most eloquent. You don't have to know all these big words and all. It's not even about that, because I'm not the most eloquent person, though. I have, though I have a passion of writing, I'm not the most eloquent person. I don't have a wide, extensive vocabulary as others do. But I do try to make sure that when I am speaking, that I try to remain humble. And I'm not saying that I'm even myself have always succeeded in that, because sometimes, the flesh just wants to get a win in this daily battle. But you gotta constantly be training your mind to speak the things that are fruitful, that bring forth life and not death.
That's powerful, brother. And like you just said, what comes out through a man's heart, what comes out through a man's mouth will show. Whatever's in a man's heart will come through his mouth. So that is most definitely a key teaching the Messiah taught himself. But I want to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and then I think we could probably wrap it up for this portion, or unless the brother want to come in and land back off this one. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, I've shared this before. If I speak in tongues, verse 1, if I speak in tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, the King James say charity, but I love this version better. But do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is not shouting and cursing people out and assaulting them verbally. That's not love. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant. Let's go to verse 5. Or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing. How many of us rejoice in wrongdoing? I have. Let's keep going. Verse 7. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Verse 8. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. I just want to sit here, like the brother was saying earlier. Yeah, a lot of us don't speak eloquently, or we don't speak with the sharp, we don't have the vernacular or the extensive vocabulary. But you could talk properly and have the extensive vocabulary and say all the big words in the world, but if there's no love, and you come in the name of the Most High, it means nothing. Think about that for a minute. When we're out there on the street corners, or when we're in the chats, or when we're on social media, and we're most definitely trying to present ourselves to be something. Brother Gabar, got anything before we're going?
Man, I just want to read verse 11. This is actually an anthem or a theme for my whole walk. Verse 11 in the same chapter. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. So, again, Israel, and to the audience that's listening, when are you going to grow up and speak as one that is grown and has come off of the milk? All right. When are you gonna do that? Okay, because we can't even deal with topics and try to have a peaceful dialogue unless we know how to talk to each other. Okay, we got to know how to speak to one another so that way we can at least attempt to come to an agreement, or even if the agreement is not met at that point in time, it can still be a respectful disagreement, but a continued study to try to see what the other side is saying, and to come on one accord in some form or fashion, if that be at all possible. But again, you gotta be able to be grown up about this. Okay, you gotta be able to be grown up about it and not speak as though you are a child. Not being able to control your emotions. You want to just allow the pride to come out because you want to be seen. Okay, and I saw this a long time ago, and I even saw myself becoming that on social media. Social media gives a platform for everybody to stand at a podium and speak. As if the intention is on them. It gives everybody a podium. But is that podium being used properly to bring forth fruit, or is it a podium to bring forth death? Okay, so again, we gotta watch the things that come out of our mouth. So I would just go ahead and yield there. Again, like I said, that's one of my favorite scriptures, verse 11. That is the theme for my walk in my daily life. Anytime I have a status on whatever WhatsApp or anything that I'm using, Google Hangouts, whatever, that's I post this scripture because this is something that resonates with me continually.
I agree, brother, and I appreciate your words. I know when me and Gabar were behind the scenes talking about this, I know in the past I have not been well behaved myself. I know at times my passion can most definitely make a lot of people uncomfortable. But one thing about it, I never make an attempt to personally assault somebody verbally. I know my passion can most definitely disturb a person, and I can get intense, but my passion is never intended to hurt anybody. I've been on here for quite some time, and a lot of us have passion. A lot of us are very into what we believe, and we want people just to listen to us, and we hope that we provoke people to righteousness. But sometime when you're on social media and when you have a crowd, you develop an ego. Now all of a sudden it's about stroking your ego, and it's not even about saving lives no more. It's about how big your head gets. And I have drunk of this cup myself. So a lot of us, we have to most definitely come to terms. If we're going to put these titles on ourselves, we have to be very careful, and we have to stop talking so much and just start acting, apply. Because to be an Israelite, is there a bloodline? Yes, we agree. But only a certain amount of people came out the wilderness. I'm going to say it again. That first generation didn't make it out the wilderness. We got to remember that. The Most High has always asked his anointed to be set apart. And we see only a few in the scriptures who are set apart. That's a fact. A lot of people don't like that. They don't like to hear that. But that's scripture. If you got a problem with that, you take that to the Most High. I'm just delivering the word to you. But now that I think that the behavior part is most definitely was very important, we hit a few scriptures, and I hope that most definitely it was edifying to those who are listening. I want to go to Genesis chapter 12. Well, hold on. Before we do that, let's go to Galatians chapter 3. I want to go there because when it comes to the covenant or the agreement, we need to start with the father of the faith, which is known as Abraham. The Most High says that I do not change. So whatever was established with Abraham, we're going to see that it's the same thing with whoever else agreed to a covenant, who agreed to a covenant with the Most High. So Galatians chapter 3, and we're going to pick it up. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. Galatians chapter 3, and we are going to go to verse. Let's go to verse 6. Just as Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. So you see, those who believe are the descendants of Abraham. Well, wait a minute. He said those who believe are the descendants of Abraham. Let's keep going. Verse 8. And the scripture foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, declaring the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying, all the Gentiles shall be blessed in you. For this reason, those who believe are blessed with Abraham who believe. Now, I want to ask Gabar a question. I want to ask him real quick. Are you using the King James, my brother?
Yeah, I have other translations that I have on my disposal, but yeah, I read King James.
Yeah, can you read that from the King James, verse 6 through 9, please?
All right, so it says, even as Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. Know ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham. And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the gospel unto Abraham, saying, in thee shall all nations be blessed. So then they which be of faith are blessed with faithful Abraham.
Now, I just want to ask you a question, my brother. Who do you understand the heathen to be?
Scripturally, you have heathen can be the other nations, or it can be Israel who is scattered and that are scattered in the other nations, or sometimes the scriptures can define the heathen as Israel that's not following the Most High's commandments.
Okay, I could take that, because that could be that's one way of looking at it. But now let's really get into it. So when we go to Genesis chapter 2, well, before we go to Genesis chapter 12, well, Paul pretty much is just reiterating what Abraham heard, or what was spoken with Abraham, or the agreement with Abraham. Who would you say who was the heathen at the time that Abraham made this agreement with the Most High?
Well, to answer that question, I would go to the book of Acts. Okay, the book of Acts, chapter 3.
Go right ahead, bro.
All right, so Acts chapter 3, and I want to start at verse. I'll just get straight to the point. I'll just go to verse 25. So it says, "Ye are the children of the prophets and of the covenant which God made with our fathers, saying unto Abraham, and in thy seed shall all kindreds of the earth be blessed." All right, so we know that this is Peter whenever he is speaking, and he is talking to his kindred, to his brethren. Okay, so he's making the statement, and referencing what Paul quoted in Galatians chapter 3. Peter's pulling from that same source, and he's saying this to his brethren. Okay, so the way I understand this is this is actually going. He's actually speaking about his kindred, those who may have not understood who they were, or may not be understanding in the keeping of the commandments. Those who may be scattered abroad, and so on and so forth. Because again, it says right here, ye are the children of the prophets and of the covenant which God made with our fathers. Okay, so that little phrase right there, our fathers, is letting us know that this is sounding like it's more exclusive to a certain group of people, as opposed to saying that it's just talking to everybody. Now, of course, there is more in the whole thing about where it says, "And in thy seed shall all the kindreds of the earth be blessed." Of course, there is more to that builds up to that. But initially, coming back to the book of Acts, I believe that this was initially for Peter's kindred, which was the children of Israel.
Okay. I would say this then. When it comes to, let me go back to Galatians, and let me read this one more time because I want to make sure, because I hear your point. But when we see here, and it reads, "In the scripture foreseeing," verse 8 in Galatians chapter 3, right? So, in the scripture foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, declaring the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying that all the Gentiles shall be blessed in you. So we would probably have to go to Genesis chapter 12, and let's just stay in context around that time frame, because and the reason why I say that is because at this time there was no one by the name of Israel on earth at this time. All we understood. Let's just go there. Genesis chapter 12.
Right.
And because the point is that of course, I have no issue with the Most High. I mean, with us. Well, I can't have no issue with the Most High. I can't have that issue. But my point, and I should just correct myself. When I read this, I'm looking at Genesis chapter 12, because at this time there was no one by the name of Israel on earth, and Abraham didn't even have any children at this time. So now all of a sudden, we know that his seed will be blessed. But now, and we know prior to this, the Tower of Babel and the nations were scattered. So, and prior to that, the world was heavy draped in idolatry. But let's look at Genesis chapter 12 real quick. And I'm picking up verse 1. "And Jehovah has said to Abraham, go out from your land and from your kindred and from your father's house to the land which I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great," your character, your name, your reputation, "and you will be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you, and curse the ones despising you, and in you all families of the earth shall be blessed." So now all of a sudden, is that just talking about when Paul is? I see that when Paul is writing to the Galatians, I see this, not just Abraham's actual literal seed is going to be blessed. Through Abraham, all the families on earth will be blessed. They're all going to have the opportunity to be blessed through Abraham, and they're going to also have the opportunity to worship this God that Abraham believed on. Would you agree with that?
I'll say this in regards to that. I can't agree totally 100%, and here's my reason why. Concerning Paul, because he speaks on this more than one time in different letters. Okay, concerning Abraham's seed. So now what we have to figure out is who is he talking to when he's saying the Gentiles, all the nations, all the families of the earth shall be blessed, and all these things. Like, we have to figure out what's really going on here, because when you go to Romans chapter 9, and starting at verse 1, I'll just start at verse 1. It says, I say the truth in Christ, I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I wish that myself were accursed from Christ, or from Hamashiach, or the Messiah, for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of God and the promises. Okay? So it says, whose are the fathers, and of whom concerning the flesh Christ came, who is over all, God bless forever. Amen. Okay, so now we see that here he starts out saying that he wished that he was accursed from Christ for his kinsmen that are according to the flesh. So clearly these are those who have a blood relation to him. So, and then he goes on and says that to them pertains the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law, the service of the Most High and the promises, and who concerning the flesh the Messiah came. All right. So now then he goes on and says, not as though the word of God hath taken none effect, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. Which I do agree, because everyone, it takes more than just waking up and just understanding who you are, to be actually of the remnant of the elect. It says neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Okay, so again, it's starting to go back and it's addressing this thing concerning the seed of Abraham that you kicked off with in Galatians chapter 3. Okay, so it says that is verse 8. That is they which are the children of the flesh. These are not the children of God, but the children of the promise are accounted for the seed. So we understand that this promise, it did start with Abraham, but then it goes to Isaac, because Abraham had other children, through Hagar, who he had with, and then of course after Sarah died, and once Hagar was sent away, Abraham had another wife, Keturah, and he had more children. Okay, so but the promise moved from Abraham down to Isaac. Okay, and then we know that from Isaac it moved down to Jacob. Okay, so this seed, this promise was always following through a peculiar seed line. Okay, and which is why when you go back to Acts chapter 3, and we see Peter, he's speaking and he's saying that you, my brethren, ye are the children of the prophets, who Most High said to Abraham, in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Okay, so again, like this is still concerning the children of Israel as far as the promise and the covenants and the giving of the law and everything. Now, in terms of the other nations being blessed, we have to then start to go through scriptures to see, okay, well, what are they actually blessed with? Is there scripture or is there prophecy, that's stating that the other nations would be blessed with something according to the promise of Abraham? Okay, would they actually be blessed with something? And in order to understand that, we got to understand what the promise actually is, because there is a promise that was given to Abraham, which would then be passed down to Isaac and then passed down to Jacob, and then from Jacob, he has his 12 sons. And then we know that when you read Galatians, of course, that leads us all the way to the Messiah, and I think that we can agree on that. But again, like, we have to understand, all right, the promise. What is the promise? Okay, and do the other nations, do they actually have that same promise? Do they actually have that? Do they actually have that same blessing, or is it something that is more exclusive? And that's what we got to try to understand, so that way, we can understand what the scriptures are saying, from a historical standpoint as well as from a prophetic standpoint.
Okay. Now let me see if I'm very clear with my words. I agree with everything you said as far as Israel being the individuals and the ambassadors of the Most High's word. I most definitely agree with that 100%. But they made an agreement, and the agreement was to keep the commandments and to be his priests and to bring the nations to the Most High. That's pretty much. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So my question, but what my answer to that would be is yes, they are supposed to be the priests that's supposed to be teaching the nations how to worship and serve the Most High, how to keep His commandments, and so on and so forth. I do agree with that.
Okay, and that's the mandate. We don't see anything. Yeah, and we don't see anything when they made the covenant in Exodus that to make sure that you deal with yourselves only. We don't see that. We see be priests and lead the nations. You are to bring the nations to the Father or to the Most High, or whichever you prefer to call them. So we also understand in the prophets, we can see through Isaiah and various other examples, to where Israel is to be a light. So when you're a light to somebody, are you just going to shine on them all day, or are we going to provoke them to come to this way of life, or we're just going to continue to shine on them and just sit there and just stand and look at them and condemn them for not coming to the ways to the Most High, where we're supposed to be the ambassadors to bring them in.
Now I'm just thinking about the way how you said it. It just made me think about it's like we rappers and we just shining on them.
Exactly, bro.
Nah, absolutely not. Because again, that's pride, and we are supposed to be teaching the nations how to worship the Most High. I mean, this is the law was given to the children of Israel. It's supposed to be under our protection, because when it says to keep His commandments, we understand that Hebrew word is shamar, which means to protect, to watch over.
Exactly.
So it is commissioned. So it is commissioned to us to guard His law. It's definitely commissioned to do that. And there is no scripture that says that the other nations can't keep the commandments. I mean, that's just not there, So contrary to what I've even heard some of my brothers teach, on the streets and everything, it was all like, it's not for you. And I'm all like, well, I wouldn't say that because it is for the children of Israel, but we have a duty and we have a responsibility when it comes to His law, which is why we're held to a higher accountability when it comes to the Most High and what He has in store. We are definitely held to a higher accountability. You can even see that in Isaiah chapter 5. We are held to a higher accountability. So like I don't know why brothers is saying that. Like I said, I've heard it. It's like, well, it's not for you. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean it's not for them? I mean, like the whole earth has to be governed by His Torah. Like that's what the prophecy says, that the law is going to go forth from Zion, and all nations are going to come up to hear it. They're going to want to come up to learn. Okay, so I mean, I don't know why brothers are saying that. I don't know. Like I said, I really think it's going back to what we established early on is the pride, the conduct, and they've lost sight of what their purpose is. And me personally, though I am pro-Israel, I do want to make that clear. I am pro-Israel, but at the same time, I just try to take the whole totality of the scriptures, and put it in its proper context and not omit certain things or only isolate certain things that are there. And I think that's what the problem is that there's just certain scriptures that brothers are just isolating out, and while omitting some of the others without trying to get the full picture. And I mean, there's been times where I've tried to understand why. I'm like, all right, man, well, we upset. We've been lied to for generations. We waking up and we start to see some things, and now we're upset. And we've fought so long without having a sense of belonging. And now that we're seeing that the greatest story ever told throughout history is pertaining to us, now it's like, we want to keep it so exclusive. And like I said, so some of that I can understand to a degree. I mean, I'm the first one that'll say, hey man, the Catholics, they need to give up our records. That stuff belongs to us. I'll be the first to say they have no right or authority to it. But because of our disobedience, the Most High set it up that way. But
you know what? I'm glad you said that. Is because of Israel's what? Disobedience. And that's why it was given to who? When Christ said, was that in Matthew chapter 21, where he said, I'm paraphrasing that, your position has been given over to who? To the Gentiles.
Right.
Because of our disobedience. Because we were not keeping the covenant. We were not adhering to it. And the Christian will say, well, the laws could not be kept. No, it's not that the laws couldn't be kept. You had a hard-head stick from that people that chose not to keep them. That was the problem. So we can agree that Israel willingly decided, or they willingly and they refused to keep the sayings. They refused to keep the traditions of the Most High God. And they forsook the covenant. So we understand now, guess what? Somebody has to come and to remind Israel, because the prophet said this, I think it's Isaiah 49, that my servant, you are to restore Israel and still be a light to the nations. Now, so not only that this individual is going to remind Israel, this individual is going to what? He's not only is he going to remind Israel, he's going to continue on the original purpose that Israel was given in the beginning. Israel got to be reminded now, and then this individual also is going to continue to keep the covenant that was made prior. Would you agree with that? We spoke in the prophet.
Right. I'm just let me try to make sure I'm understanding, because that last part when you said continue on the covenant, I know you're talking about Hamashiach. As far as continuing on the covenant, like what do you mean by continuing on the covenant?
And then let me clarify, because I apologize if I wasn't clear. The covenant that was made with Abraham, the families of the earth are going to be blessed. Somebody got to do that, and obviously we see that Israel, they didn't do it. They didn't do it at all. So now all of a sudden, somebody has to continue what Israel was. Someone had to pick up where Israel couldn't even. They dropped the ball. So somebody got to pick up the ball, remind the priests, and at the same time, while the priests are being reminded, the original purpose has to most definitely be maintained and kept, and has to be done.
The part of that I disagree with, only because as far as the Messiah, I mean, the covenant was always for him. I want to say that first, because and the reason why I say that is because Paul he addresses it, in back in Galatians he says but let me go ahead and read it so I make sure I'm not misquoting it. Galatians chapter 3, go back there, and verse 16. All right, so it says, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. And he saith, not into seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Mashiach. So the promise, and actually, me and a brother, we were actually studying this out a couple of days ago, because part of the reason why we've been going to it is because of what we're getting ready to teach next week. We had to go into the Hebrew, and we had to actually read it from a Hebrew standpoint. Now, not to say that the English translation doesn't do it justice concerning the promise made to Abraham, because it says seed. It's never plural even in the English translation. But even when we are jumping back into the Hebrew translation, we see that the word seed there is not plural. It's definitely singular. It's definitely not plural at all. So the promise and the covenant that was given to Abraham, that was for his seed, was always for the Messiah. So even so that land that's promised to Abraham, that belongs to the Messiah.
I agree. I agree. No, I'm saying no. I'm not disagreeing with that, and I'm not saying that the Messiah is not the seed. But what I'm saying is that we're thinking prior. We're thinking before Mashiach. We're thinking that this purpose, as we know in Genesis chapter 12 and so forth, even the covenant in the book of Exodus, we know that Israel, they are the pre-shadowing of Messiah, or the very first example of what it's supposed to look like. We know eventually. We know eventually the seed is Messiah. I don't doubt that at all, and that's why I want to go to Isaiah, because Isaiah most definitely paints the picture for us. You know what I'm saying? Because now all of a sudden we agree, Israel, they messed up, they dropped the ball. So guess what? The actual prophecy, the seed, now is really going to take place, because when the Most High speaks something, it got to happen. Most definitely. So that seed, or whoever this individual is, he's going to make sure that he does the will of the Father, and whatever is the Father's pleasure, it will be done. Would you agree?
Yeah, most definitely. I agree.
Most definitely. So let's go to this light. And let's go to Isaiah 42. Now, we know various people. We know the arguments. I'm pretty sure as believers in Christ, we have all had this argument back and forth with various individuals who hate Christ. It's that simple. So we understand this. Some people say it's talking about Israel. Some people say it's twofold. Some people say Israel only. I'm going to say this is only talking about one individual, and I can care less who agrees with me or not. When I read this, prophecy is being fulfilled, and it's going to happen. So let's pick it up at chapter 42, and we're going to start at verse 1. Behold, my servant, I will uphold him, my elect, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit on him, and he shall bring forth justice to the nations. He shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed he shall not break, and a smoking wick he shall not quench. He shall bring forth justice to truth. He shall not fail. No, Israel failed, but this individual, this person, he says, he shall not fail, nor be crushed, until he has set justice in the earth. And the coast shall wait for his law. So says Jehovah God, creating the heavens and stretching them out, spreading out the earth and its offspring, giving bread to the people, on it the spirit to those walking in it. I, Jehovah, have called you in righteousness, and will hold your hand, and will keep you and give you for a covenant of the people, for a light to the nations, to open blind eyes, to deliver the prisoner from the prison, those who sit in darkness from the prison. I understand this to be one individual and one individual only, Yeshua the Christ. And he's upholding what the Father has already revealed from the beginning. It says in Isaiah 46, in verse 10, I believe, I established the goal from the beginning. That Hebrew word means the goal. A Koreth, it means I established the goal from the beginning. So no matter what people say, who is it, the Father's will be carried out no matter what you say, what you believe. It stands here. And we understand the Father's will to be carried out through the one and only Christ, Yeshua, nobody else. And this is the purpose. And this is the purpose of Messiah, to carry out the will of the Father. Only Israel didn't carry out the will of the Father because they were kicking and twisting and whining and crying and complaining constantly, worshiping the other Baals or the Baalim, the other system lords of the Canaanites when in the lands they were living in. And they most definitely were heavily influenced by other nations. Constantly. Instead of them being a light to the nations, they started doing what the nations were doing, and that's when it became a problem, most definitely. And with that, brother, you can go ahead and expound, bring out some of the scriptures, or however you want to do it.
Okay. I want to say first, I do agree this is concerning the Messiah. We definitely don't need to go back and forth about who this is concerning. Unlike the Tanakh only community, they may do that. So we definitely have no quarrel there.
Exactly.
I do want to also agree that Israel was supposed to be, a light to the nations. Now concerning Isaiah 42, but I want to say that as far as this concerning the Messiah, and when it says being a light to the nations or a light to the Gentiles, this is concerning the children of Israel who were either scattered abroad, one, or who were caught up in the ways of the Gentiles. And I want to go to Matthew 4 because Isaiah 42 is quoted in Matthew 4, and we got to see who this is concerning. Okay, so Matthew chapter 4, and I want to pick it up at verse 12. Matthew chapter 4 and verse 12. It says, "Now when Yahushua had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee, and leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, in the borders of Zebulun and Nephthalim, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah, the prophet, saying, the land of Zebulun and the land of Nephthalim, by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people which sat in darkness saw a great light, and to them which sat in the region, shadow of death, light is sprung up." Okay, so yes, the Messiah does have to be a light to the Gentiles, but these Gentiles are still concerning children of Israel who were spread abroad, put in captivity, and began to adopt the ways of the Gentiles. See, the Messiah, his purpose, and this is it, and I think this is where we differ at. The Messiah, his purpose is to bring his people back into the light first, because just like you said, the Most High doesn't change. So if he made Israel to be a light to the nation, that's what it is. He made them to be a light to the nation. So the Messiah, he has to come be a light to his people, so that way they can be a light to the rest of the world. And I think that's where I'm trying to get in an agreement with you on, because it's a process, and the process needs to start with Israel first. It's gotta start with the Most High's people first. It's got to start with them, being brought out of darkness into the light, which is through the begotten Son that was sent to bring them out of that darkness. He a light to them, And then from there, once they are a light, once they are brought out of darkness into that light, they can then be a light to the nation. So which is why we are supposed to look at the Messiah as our example, so that way the other nations can see that light, and they can see that, okay, yeah, they walk in, they are as it is commonly termed Christ-like. They are walking as the Messiah walked. They are doing the things that he's doing. They are exhibiting his characteristics, his attributes. The nations need to see that from us. But we first gotta see the Messiah, and we still have that problem where there's still a lot of us that's not actually seeing the Messiah. There's still a darkness that is there, and even back then, that darkness was there. But as we go through the Gospels and Book of Acts, we start to see that the Most High's people is coming out of that darkness, and they're seeing the light that the Messiah is bringing forth, which is the will of the Father according to prophecy. So again, Isaiah 42, that is talking about the children of Israel who were in these Gentile ways, whether they were under Gentile customs, whether they were scattered, and so on and so forth, because that was the mission. The mission was to go to his people so that way they can be brought out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Okay. I would agree with that to a certain extent. And my point is that I don't disagree. Again, I think that what I'm saying is that, yes, somebody is to remind Israel. But just because Israel has to be reminded doesn't mean that nobody else doesn't see the light. And I think that's where our disagreement is at, because I'm not negating the fact that Israel, we can read in Isaiah 49 to where it says that someone is supposed to bring Jacob back. So we know who that is. But the point is that even though the Gentiles, which I still believe Gentiles to be those who are not of Israel, and I do understand that there could be some Israelites who may have been called Gentiles based on the customs they received, based on the customs of the land. They were living amongst the heathen, so I'm pretty sure they may have been called Gentiles. That's fine. I would like to see more historical proof of that. But my point is, overall, is that what we see in Isaiah 49, someone is to most definitely stand out and to be a light to Israel. Of course, yes. But we also know that light just doesn't shine just on Israel. There are other people who also see it as well. And I think that's another thing that we have to most definitely come to terms here on, is that, yes, the Messiah, was he sent to Israel? Yes, he was sent to Israel. First, to show them and to remind them. But at the same time, while they're being reminded, most definitely somebody else or some other people see it as well. And that's why we have examples. We see with the centurion. We see with Cornelius, which I know we have those disagreements. But that's why there's nothing wrong with the Messiah reminding Israel. I don't disagree with that at all. But other people also see it as well. And that is where we differ. That is the thing that I'm stressing, that yes, Israel, most definitely the Messiah is supposed to deal with them, talk to them. He even said himself, I was sent to the children of Israel. But that doesn't negate anybody else. And that's my stance. When we read in Isaiah 49, we most definitely see, where is that at? In verse 5. And now says Jehovah, who formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob back to him. Though Israel is not gathered, yet I am honored in the eye of Jehovah, and my God is my strength. And he said, it is too little that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved ones of Israel. I will also give you for a light to the nations. Right there. So, So of course, yes, Israel, you got to most definitely come back. You got to come back to the covenant. But at the same time, while they're being reminded, other people also see it. We understand Christ to be the light. We understand that completely. That light just doesn't shine for one group of people. He's the light of God. He is the image of the Most High. He represents he's the Son of God. He is that. He is truly humble. He's divine. He's all that. And only one group of people get to see him. Nobody from a distance get to understand and and comprehend and see what this light is doing to a bunch of people who choose to refuse him and to be oppressed. Where's your stance on that?
I can agree with that. As far as him being a light to the children of Israel, and then others seeing it. Now, where I would say that's still incomplete. It's not completed because in terms of being a light to the nation, there's a lot that they have to see. Okay, according to the prophecy. Okay, so because this light that the other nations see, it involves other things. Okay, and I believe that we spoke on this before when you go to Isaiah 60. Okay, when you read that before we even go there, this is what I want to bring out. In Isaiah 49, whenever you jump to verse 10. And that's not to exclude anything that's before it. From 1 to 9, that is absolutely correct. About them being a light to the Gentiles, and all these things, because whenever they're gathered, that's the whole thing. It says that they're gonna give thee for a light to the Gentiles, made to be my salvation to the end of the earth. Okay, so whenever that happens, when you jump to verse 10, it says, they shall not hunger nor thirst, nor the sun smite them. For he that hath mercy on them shall lead them. Even by the springs of water shall he guide them. Okay, so now when you go to Isaiah 6, before I even begin at verse 1, and keeping in mind what verse 10 says, where it says that they shall neither hunger nor thirst, neither shall the heat nor the sun smite them. All right, when you go to Isaiah 60, and when you jump to verse 19, okay, I'm going to read 19 and 20. It says, the sun, so now when it says how the heat nor the sun shall smite them, this is the reason why. Okay, and these are, and what I've learned is that these phrases are key to unlocking, I believe, the prophecy, to see the full process of how this is going to happen. And it's understanding these phrases, because these phrases are spoken of in various places. So the reason why the sun's not going to smite them has been spoken in Isaiah 39, because when you get to Isaiah 60 and verse 19, and I'm going to end at verse 20, it says, the sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. But Yahweh shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and thy God thy glory. Verse 20, the sun shall no more go down, neither shall thy moon withdraw itself. For Yahweh shall be thy everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. Okay, so we see that Isaiah 49, the reason why the sun's not going to smite them, because there's not going to be no more need for it. Okay, because the Most High is going to be that light, as you have already stated. Okay, so when we jump back up to Isaiah 60, it says this, because remember that the children of Israel, whenever they were raised up, and then whenever they are restored, they're going to be given as a light to the Gentiles. So that way, it says that thou mayest be my salvation unto the ends of the earth in Isaiah 49 and 6. So Isaiah 60, when you jump back up to verse 1, it says, arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee. It says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and the gross darkness the people. But Yahweh shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. So this is something that still needs to come to pass, okay, according to prophecy, that that the Most High's glory, His light, is His glory that needs to be seen in His people. Okay, and of course it can only be seen if we are of the body of the Messiah. But I don't think we have to have any quarrel there. But verse 3, it says, "And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising." All right. So again, these things are still yet to come to pass. All right. The Gentiles have not seen our light. They have not seen it yet. They have not seen the glory of the Most High in us as we are abiding in His Son. The other nations still have not seen that yet. So, which means that in order for the other nations to truly see the Most High's light and for them to return back, and for them to come and learn about His law and all that, we as the children of Israel, if we believe that we are, and if we believe that we are abiding in His Son, we still got work to do, because the other nations still have not seen it in its totality yet. Because as we see, we look outside, we see what's going on. I mean, it's a sea of wickedness. We go outside, So
yeah, and I agree.
Yeah. So my difference in what you are saying is that it's still incomplete. So there's still a process that needs to happen, and not to say that the other nations can't see it now. I'm not saying that. I mean,
and I'm glad you said that, that because the thing is that even though we understand Isaiah 60 to not fully happen yet, this is going to happen over a process of time. So when this does happen, before it does manifest, before the kingdom fills the earth, according spoken by the prophet Daniel, we see that that it's our job, for us who know who we are and we understand the Messiah. It is our mandate to establish this, to go out and remind Israel, and to go out to those who are not of the bloodline of Jacob. I think that's the thing with us. So we see that now. So what we're coming into, brother, is that we understand, of course, yes, the light has not fully manifested 100%, or the kingdom has not filled the earth. But guess what? According to the prophet, it is spoken that the rock smote the image, and eventually over a period of time it'll grow, and it'll be a big mountain all over the whole earth. So the thing is now, according to the prophet Isaiah, is that we see this manifesting, spoken by the prophet. But in this time where we're living in now, it has not yet manifested. But it is still our job, who knows better, those who know better, to go out and to seek out those who are willing to accept the Messiah, whether it be Israel or not.
So Ben, let me ask this question. In terms of our duty right now, because we're in agreement that this light fully hasn't manifested yet, what should our priority be? Should it be to Israel or just to whoever listens?
Whoever listens, in my opinion. I would say whoever listens, because Israel rejected the Messiah. They had him hit. So so the thing, what I'm saying, he was rejected. The Messiah, and this is one thing about the Messiah, which I'm pretty sure you may agree as well. People prove, and I say this all the time, whether you are for Christ or against Christ, love him or hate him, whichever side you're on, you prove he's the Messiah. You prove it, because is it not written in the prophets that he shall be hated by men and highly despised? So exactly. So the thing is that when it comes to Yeshua, he's going to either be loved or hated. With your hate, you're going to prove he's the Messiah, and with your love for him, you're going to prove he's the Messiah. So that's why I find it very useless for brothers to keep debating who Yeshua is, who he is, what he stands for, because no matter what side of the fence you're on, you're proving it. So my thing is, overall, is that if you ride for the Messiah and you have love for him, and you know the purpose of what he was carrying out, you're supposed to be doing the same thing, especially if you go by the name of Israel. Remind your people, but also don't just negate nobody else, because those other people most definitely need to hear this light as well. All humanity needs to hear it. Israel ain't the only people in the world that's suffering. a lot of people are suffering. Are there different power structures in society? Are there certain people in this world who are getting the benefits of the power structure? Yes, but guess what? This gospel, this good news, this is a revolutionary message. This ain't no religious fairy tale doctrine we're bringing here. This is justice for all people who want to partake in the kingdom of heaven, which will fill the earth one day. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it is what it is. You can call me a religious spook. I don't care, but that's where I stand for the haters who are listening. But go ahead, brother, if you want to say something else.
Here's where I would differ in that. And I'm going to quote Malcolm X whenever he said this. He said, we can't have any unity with other people until we have unity with ourselves. So, and I believe that that's what Scriptures is teaching, is that we got to have some unity among Israel who are believers in the body of the Messiah first. Because how can we then go to the other nations and even tell them how they're supposed to live, how they're supposed to serve the Most High, how they're supposed to do all these things, if we haven't even, gotten that full grasp amongst our own kindred? And, because, a simple thing like loving your neighbor as yourself, that's something that we're still struggling with, even still to this day. We're still struggling on keeping the royal law, even amongst our own, even amongst our own kindred. So, my difference in that would be, okay, well, I and this is why I say I'm pro-Israel. It's not because I'm, it's about, oh, well, white man's the devil and all this. It's not even about that. I'm talking about being pro-Israel in terms of having some preservation for self first, and really and making sure this thing is tight knit amongst ourselves first, before we can even start dealing with the other nations, because they got to see unity with us. That's what they have to see. They have to see unity amongst ourselves. Because when we go in scriptures and we see the prophecies, and I don't think we need to go through the whole thing about what the hierarchy is going to be. We know that Israel is going to be the elite nation. We know that. That's rooted in the Torah. That's rooted in the prophets. Israel is going to be the ruling, governing nation throughout the earth. And the other nations are going to be under that. And we're going to be under the Messiah. But so I don't think we need to go through all of that to see what the structure is. But I do think that we need to primarily focus on our people and not just anybody that listens, because this is essential to the light being seen. It's essential to the light being seen, because that's having this unity amongst our brothers and sisters, that are of the royal seed line, and we don't have that right now, and that's why, just like we was talking about earlier, it's a hot mess with the conduct and the behavior, and the other nations are seeing that. So then it actually turns them away, because they're not seeing no unity amongst ourselves. So how can we be out here saying, well, you're gonna be my servant in the kingdom and all this and that, but then they're looking at us like, well, I wouldn't want to serve you anyway. Say they're probably saying that, I wouldn't want to serve you anyway, because the scriptures are saying that, they're going to cleave and they're going to want to willingly serve. So, but how can they want to willingly serve if we're not having any unity amongst ourselves to where, they are actually willing to do it? So it does play a vital part in that light, being fully magnified for the other nations to see. So then we can be that elite nation, and then we can, go into the kingdom and be the governing body and have the nations, come and learn from us, and the whole thing about the servants and all that stuff and everything that these brothers are teaching out there. They are forgetting that we got to have some unity, and the only way we're going to do that is if we come back to the thing that we were establishing whenever we first came on. So again, one more time, like Malcolm X said, we can't have any unity with anybody else unless we have some unity amongst ourselves. You know, so.
See, I would differ. Well, I would say this then. When has Israel ever been united? When have they ever gotten along?
I would say during the time of Solomon, because you know when you read 1 Kings chapter 4, it says how there was peace on every side. So there was definitely some unity then. You know, during the time when Solomon reigned, whenever there was peace on every side throughout the nation, as it stated in 1 Kings chapter 4. And if there was peace, that means that we have peace amongst ourselves, and because we have peace amongst ourselves, the Most High put a hedge of protection over us, and the other nations, they did not come and attack. And in fact, during that time, the other nations, you know, they was like, man, they was coming up, you know, they want to hear all this wisdom from Solomon and everything, and how he was governing the people, because that's what he asked for. You know, he asked for wisdom that he may govern the people. And what
eventually happened with Solomon, though?
I mean, we all know he started dealing with all those wives and concubines and started, you know, worshiping the other gods and everything. And so, and that's how we fail. And see that's where it comes back to, in terms of why Most High gave us His law, because it's for us to guard and to protect. When we don't guard and protect it, it affects not only us but those who are looking at us. Because, and I agree with what brothers say when they do street teach to some regard, in terms of, you know, they look at us and they want to be like us, you know. And I want to quote something from my brother Shaul, who was with me on the trial series. You know, this is something that he told me a while ago. He's like, man, nobody sins like Israel do. We sin the best. Out of all the nations, we sin the best. So
it also
likewise,
says that we taught the nations how to be wicked.
Right, exactly. Nobody sins like Israel do. You know, we do it the best. So, you know, we are trendsetters, for better or for worse. You know, and so we, you know what I'm saying, we have to set that trend, so that way the other nations can see that, oh, okay, they got unity. They are keeping the commandments. You know, wow, they actually know how to, you know, deal with their brother accordingly and righteously according to the fruits of the Spirit. They're actually doing what the Messiah taught them to do. And like I say, and that's when they will fall in line willingly. You know,
and that's where the Messiah says only few that find it. The narrow path leads to salvation. So now all of a sudden it goes back to where we have our disagreement at. You say that we need to most definitely make sure amongst ourselves that we're good. And I say, the hell with that. If I'm good with a few brothers, that's fine. But my goal is to take this to whoever is willing to listen. And that's what I see what Paul did. Paul decided, okay, Israel, you guys don't want to listen? Well, guess where I'm going to go? I'm going to go and I'm going to go talk to the heathen or the Gentiles, which consist of whoever or whatever. And so we see, and I'm not speaking sharply against you, brother. This is how I talk. No, I just want to make sure, because believe me, there have been people who have complained, B.A. yelling and screaming, he cursed too much. Because I say hell.
Brother, I'm telling you, clear that I have not heard any of that from you thus far.
I'm telling you, bro. I mean, you'd be amazed at the complaints that have gotten back about me. You'd be amazed. And I'm not saying I'm innocent, but my point is that the way I speak, this is me on a daily basis. But the thing is, but back to the original point, is that, before I go any further, if you would like to press 1, most definitely you could do it this time. We'll take any questions or comments or observations. Me and Gabar are having a conversation about the purpose of Israel and the purpose of Messiah. The phone number is, I got to remember that phone number. Most definitely the phone. Let me see, 319-527-6239. If you want to press 1 and chime in and have any questions or comments or observations, if you agree or disagree, we're fine with that, and we'll deal with you accordingly. Again, the number is 319-527-6239. Again, 319-527-6239, and our conversation is the purpose of Israel and the purpose of Messiah. So, but me personally, I believe it's our mandate not to spend time and waste time with people who do not want to listen. Of course, make yourself available to your people. I'm not negating the fact that our people don't need it. Of course, like the Messiah, you see on his 3.5-year journey. I mean, when he was out traveling and he was speaking amongst, he was dealing with Israel. He was available to them. He made himself available. But what was it the whole time they were doing? They were the ones who gave him the most hell. Let's just be honest. So at the same time, he was fulfilling that, and he was doing that. But now all of a sudden, guess what? While he's going through all that, he's also a light to others who see him from a distance. And I think this is where we're going to disagree. So let's go to Matthew chapter 8, because I want to stress this. So, Sal, we have any callers? Any you want to press the 1? Any emails? Any comments at this time?
Not yet. Nobody pressed number 1 at this time. I'm checking the emails. I'll let you know.
All right. Matthew chapter 8. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to do a little bit of reading. I'm reading from a Greek interlinear version. And we are going to pick it up at verse, let's see. Let's go to verse 5. And Jesus entering into Capernaum, a centurion came near to him, begging him and saying, Lord, my boy has been laid in the house a paralytic, being grievously tormented. And Jesus said to him, I will come and heal him. And answering the centurion said, Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof, but only speak a word, and my boy will be healed. For I am also a man under authority, having soldiers under myself. And I say to this one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my slave, do this, and he does it. And hearing Jesus marveled, he said to those following, truly I say to you, not even in Israel did I find such faith. But I say to you that many will come from east and west and will recline. Let me read that one more time, verse 11. But I say to you that many will come from east and west and will recline with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said to the centurion, go, and as you have believed, so let it be to you. This boy was healed in that same hour. So what was the point of the Messiah stressing what he stressed, starting at, what was that, verse 12? But the sons of the kingdom, we know who the sons of the kingdom are. That's talking about the bloodline. That's talking about Israel, right? But the sons of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said to the centurion, go. Well, I'm going to have to read 13. But the point is that there's a reason why he stressed this overall. He's making a point. The Messiah was a teacher, master teacher, and he taught every single time. He was making a very valid point here. Rather you be Israel, you can quote all the scriptures in the world, yada, 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 but a lot of us would not make it in the kingdom. He said many will come from the east and the west, and they will sit with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but the children of the kingdom, they're going to be suffering. And this is why I stand on, hey, if I know who I am, I don't need to continuously go back and forth with my own people who don't want to hear it. It's about the purpose. It's about being active. Being an Israelite is all about action. You strive with the Most High. You stay in prayer with Him, and we pray. We hope and pray that He gives us the words to go out and speak to those who need to hear it. If you want to go give it to Israel, that's fine. I'll do that. But I'm going to also go to Esau. Yep, I said it. I'm going to go to Esau too. B.A. Ben Abraham said it for those who got a problem with that. I'm going to Esau. I'm going to whoever wants to hear it. And that's just what it is. And brother, if you want to expound, most definitely the floor is yours.
Con. So you started from verse 5 and you went down to, I believe, to verse 13. Here's what I have to say to that. This is a prelude to what is going to be happening in the kingdom. Because you are definitely going to have those who are of the sea line who are going to be cast out into outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Definitely. You're definitely gonna have that. There is going to be a remnant of Israel who will actually, continue on in the kingdom and inherit the promises. Which is why, again, it is such a higher accountability for his people. And again, like I said, this is a prelude, because when you read in Ezekiel 47, I want to say Ezekiel 47, as well as Revelation, in the latter chapters, we definitely see that, there's something that is set forth for the heat of the nations. Okay, so Messiah, he's definitely showing a prelude to that. Does this negate? Because again, the title of the show is The Purpose of Israel. And I believe that the purpose for Israel is, we gotta gather ourselves together. We definitely gotta come together. I agree with you 100%. I mean, look, if they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. The Most High, He has His elect. But for those who are like yourself and others that I speak with, who may not even be at the understanding that we are at, but are still giving an ear. It may not, and like I said, they may not be keeping commandments as we are, walking as we are and everything, but they're still willing to listen. We do got to strive to be patient with them. And again, that's something that we read earlier. We definitely got to be patient because, while we think sometimes like, man, this person ain't hearing it, they may come in here later, and I'll give a testimony. There's a sister who now is in the walk. Got a beautiful singing voice and everything. I won't put her name out there, but she's definitely someone who I'm pretty sure a lot of Nation of Israel has heard her music since being in the walk. I knew this sister before she came in the walk, and I was, telling her about this truth. This was way back before I even moved out of California. This was back, I want to say 2012. I was telling her about this and everything. I mean, she wasn't really hearing it. She wasn't really hearing it. And then about a year and a half to 2 years ago, a brother that's still out there, he was like sending me screenshots of what she was posting on Facebook, and I'm like, oh dang, she sees it now. And I'm like, it took all those years for her to finally see it. It took all those years. So, that seed was definitely planted, and the Most High gave the increase in due time. And that's really all that we got to do. When it comes to our people, we plant that seed, and the Most High gives the increase. And like I say, if they don't want to hear it, then they don't want to hear it. But truly, we don't know who Most High who's gonna have them come into the knowledge and grow and all that. We really don't know. Initially, I was thinking she was the same way. Man, she ain't trying to hear this. I'm gonna just stop. But hey, look, 5, 6, 7 years later, she's in it, and I'm like, okay, all right, well, it takes some time, but the Most High, His grace is sufficient, and brought her on in. So, But like again, I would say to you, brother, that that we definitely got to exercise some patience when it comes to our people. As far as dealing with other nations and whether they hear it or not, like or whatever, this is me. This is just me. And you may respectfully disagree, and that's fine. And other people that may be listening in, they may respectfully disagree. I won't initially go to the other nations, and not initially. Now, if they ask, sure, talk to them about it, tell them, everything and stuff, and I've done that. I'll have on my shirt with fringes on, and then people ask, hey, what's that all about? Blah 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 blah, and then I start telling them. And they're like, oh, okay, what I'm saying? Then we have a dialogue about it, and I tell them, and oh yeah, that's interesting, this and that, what I'm saying? So, and that's how I plant my seed. And that's how I plant my seed that way. If they like, hey man, can you pray for me? If they have a nation, sure. What I'm saying, if they ask, what I'm saying, I'll definitely do that. But I can only go by what Scripture is telling me to do in terms of, who to deal with initially, because like you said, the Messiah, he was definitely for his people first. Like you said, I'm not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So that's who he was going to. That's who he was sent to, and he never deviated from that. But along the way, did people of other nations see and want to bask in that, that light? Of course. And so I think that we are the same way, as we are walking around and we're trying to be a light out here in this dark world that we are in. If people see that and then you speak to them about it, then by all means, what I'm saying? Like I'll never, like I said, I don't know why some brothers be like, the law is not for you, when they talking to, the other nations. Like the law is not for you. And I've heard stuff said like that, and I may be not quoting it correctly in the way they're saying it, but to some form they said that, and I'm like, well, no, that ain't really how it's supposed to be. If they want to know, then tell them. And I've seen the other brothers, even Zabak and them. What I'm saying, I've seen videos. It may not be the popular ones. But I've seen some videos where they deal with other nations and are respectful. They actually deal with them. They answer their questions, and all of that, and it's respectful. I mean, a lot of times it's not, that's true. But there are times that it is. Me personally, I'm just going to be respectful no matter what. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, but does that mean I got to say, man, well, you're going to serve me in the kingdom? Like, I'm not going to do that because I'm striving to get to the kingdom. So, that's my prayer that I'm even in. If I'm in, then hey, and once I'm in, whatever the Most High has allotted to me, that's what I'll take. I'm not asking for an abundance of anything. I personally don't need servants in my cotton field, as they say, picking cotton for me. I personally don't need the other nations licking and kissing my boot. Like, I personally don't need that. I don't care for it. Just me being in the kingdom is enough, But like I said, and whatever the Most has in store for me, if it's of His will for me to be there, Yahweh willing, then by all means, I'll take whatever's given to me at that point in time. But while I'm walking, I'm gonna try to model my behavior to the best of my ability, according to the Messiah. I see what my understanding is showing is, look, you got to keep going to the house of Israel. I mean, if the other nations come along and they want to get some spiritual healing, don't say they can't have it. To go ahead and give it to them if they really show that faith. And I think Paul was doing the same thing even when he went to the other nations. I mean, he was going to the scattered that was in these other nations. I mean, nation of Israel wasn't just around the Judea area. I mean, they were in Thessalonica. They were in Rome. They were in these other cities. That was scattered. That was among the northern part of the Mediterranean Sea. Where modern day Turkey is and where Greece is at, and all these other nations, Asia Minor and so on and so forth. The Israelites were there, so I don't hear he did what Messiah was doing either, but along the way, I mean, like I say, if some other nations, if they just see it and then they come and they want to be basking in that, do we turn them away and be like, nah, this ain't for you? Nah, I necessarily don't do that, but I still believe that, and I'll hold fast to it, is that we gotta be, for self first, and it's for our protection. We gotta be for self first, because when we read scripture, and I'll go to Deuteronomy. Let me see. I want to go to Deuteronomy. I think it's chapter 7. Let me see. Let me see. So I want to go chapter 7. Let me go to. Actually, let me just go to Deuteronomy 28. Let me just go there. Let me get verse. So I can give me 1 second. All right, verse 7. All right, so Deuteronomy 28, verse 7. It says, Yahweh shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. So the reason why I'm saying that we got to be about self-preservation is because we can't deviate from the fact that, look, these other nations, they are our enemies according to Scripture. They can definitely turn on us in a heartbeat. They will definitely do that, and you got to keep a watchful eye on them. Even though we're not supposed to turn away the gospel from them, but we still got to watch them. We got to watch our own people and everything, but we definitely got to watch them. We definitely got to do that, because like I said, according to Scripture, they are our enemies. The nations are our enemies, and we cannot deviate from that. And the only way we're going to do that, I believe, is we can't be having discord amongst ourselves. And if we, like I said again, if we have that unity and that tight knit, when we are dealing with the other nations and giving them the gospel and all that, we can do it in unity and do it accordingly, and not just, it's just kind of fragmented, where it's like, well, it's just for whoever. It don't matter. I don't think the Most High wants us to operate like that. He's like, look, I need y'all to be, operating in order, have a structure, have an organization, when y'all are dealing with these other nations, because they're going to come in, they're going to have to abide by the things that I gave to you that you're supposed to be guarding and protecting. So you need to be running a tight ship amongst yourselves, because these other nations are going to come in. They don't necessarily know the ways that you know. I didn't give them the spirit that I gave you, and that's what we got to understand. So, this is the reason why, like I say, I'm pro-Israel. I'm like, man, look, man, we got to get ourselves together. We got to gather ourselves together, our nation, those who want to hear, those who have ears to hear, and so on and so forth. So my voice is kind of going out. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you while I get some water.
Hey, just to let y'all know, we do have somebody pressing number 1 at this time. Again, the number is 319-527-6239. This is just a dialogue, family, for those just joined in. My microphone was acting up, so y'all couldn't hear my announcements and stuff like that. But this is the dialogue, the purpose of Israel. Once again, the number is 319-527-6239. We still got maybe about an hour left on the air if need be. But, we can wrap it up anytime we want to. But we do have a caller standing by. You guys ready for that caller?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's tap in.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'm just a little parched. Go ahead.
All right, 3, 2, 3, you're live.
Hey, shalom, Sal, shalom, Gabar, shalom, B.A.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, bro.
Shalom.
Okay, B.A., I just want to offer some information, Ak. That's about it, based on what you said on Matthew, the information you brought out. Just to offer some information, maybe you can take into consideration and look through it for yourself and see what you come up with. I would disagree with the point of you saying that you are going to go to the Edomites. I would suggest against it because of what it says in the book of Malachi about them and the book of Obadiah about them. I don't know if you really know what it says there about them, but
no, I know what it says about those. I know what it says about Esau, who was against his brother. I know what that says. You know what I'm saying? But all of Esau, that's a whole other conversation.
In the book of in Malachi, it says, it speaks to the entire nation. It says, and the people who the Lord have indignation with forever, not just the individual. It speaks of the entire nation there in Malachi chapter 1 verse 1 through 4.
Okay, I mean, and that's fine. What we can do, I don't have that on deck right now, but I can most definitely bring out some historical sources to prove otherwise. Because if Esau is amongst us today, you're most definitely, I mean, Esau who does evil, but Esau who is living righteously, you think the Most High is going to punish them as well? Is that a just God?
I'm just telling you what the Most High himself said about them in Malachi. He says he don't like any of them according to what it says there, unless you're saying that that's incorrect. You know what I'm saying? I'm just letting you know what the scriptures are saying. It's up to you to either comply with it or not comply with it. That's why I'm saying I suggest strongly against doing that, but it's up to you at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fine, but I'm gonna take this word to everybody. It's all good.
You went to the book of Matthew chapter 8, and you read, I guess, verse 11, where it says, "And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven." You did read that, correct? Just want to make sure.
You know I did.
I just want to make sure, brother. That's all I'm doing. I don't want to assume anything.
Brother, I'll be honest. Come on, man. You heard me read it.
Okay. It says, but the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into utter darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I think you was going there to, I guess your understanding of it is that these people from the east and the west are not Israelites. I want to offer a scripture here to suggest that they are Israelites. I want to come to the book of Isaiah chapter 43. In Isaiah chapter 43, I want to start at verse 3. It says, "For I am the Lord thy God, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior." It says, "I gave Egypt for thy ransom, Ethiopia and Sebia for thee. Since thou wast precious in my sight, thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thee, and people for thy life. Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring thy seed from the east, and gather thee from the west," it says. Okay? "And I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far, and my daughters from the ends of the earth." So this scripture here letting us know that Israel is scattered to the east and to the west. He's going to bring them back. So this, as I understand it, this is what it's spoken there in Matthew about them. These are Israelites coming from these different places, the east and the west, not necessarily non-Israelites. Okay?
I would disagree, because this is talking about the restoration. This is what this is talking about. This is talking about Israel being restored. So I would agree with that. Now, when the Messiah is saying in Matthew chapter 8, let's just go back. Because I think that we need to thoroughly, slowly, but surely read it. because it sounds like to me, and I'm not saying you, but I've heard this before. And what I'm seeing is we're inserting things here which are not clearly said. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to Matthew chapter 8, because Isaiah chapter 43 is talking about the restoration. And the Messiah was very clear. He was very clear. So what we're going to do, let's read verse 10. And when Jesus, Matthew chapter 8, verse 10, when Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to them that followed, verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, not in Israel. He's talking about the people. This individual who came to him, this Roman soldier or this whoever he is, this individual, this heathen of another nation, had some faith and believed on the Messiah and knew that his son or whoever the servant was in this man's house was going to be healed. Verse 12. Let me read again. And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and the west and shall sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, if Israel is coming from the east and the west, then why would the Messiah mention that the children of the kingdom will be suffering outside of the kingdom if they're coming from being restored?
Okay, I was not finished my answer yet. I was going to get that other part too as well, the kingdom part. Now I'm going to get the kingdom part for you, the part verse 12, about the children of the kingdom being cast out into utter darkness. Okay? Because this is also mentioned again. I want to read it again. It's also mentioned again later on. In Matthew 21 and 43. Matthew 21 and 43 speaks of a similar thing, and I'm going to read it. It says, therefore I say unto you, the kingdom of God shall be taken from you and given to a nation, bringing forth the fruits thereof. Similar to what is being said there. Right? So when you read it, it sounds like it's going to give it to someone other than the nation of Israel, how it is spoken here. How it is said. Okay? I want to come to the book of Micah. Micah chapter 4. Again, like I said, all I'm doing, brother, is just offering you that it could still be Israel. It's up to you if you want to see it or not. I'm not trying to force anything or trying to argue with you. I'm just trying to show scriptures where that someone can still come in here and show that it does not necessarily mean that it's not an Israelite. That's all I'm showing, okay? Micah chapter 4. And I want to start at verse 6 through 8. All right, let me get to Micah chapter 4. Micah chapter 4, and I want to read verse 6 down to verse 8. It says, in that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will bring her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted, which is clearly speaking of the nation of Israel. Verse 7, it says, I will make her that halteth a remnant, and her that was cast off a strong nation. Okay? And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. So it speaks of this remnant becoming a strong nation, making them a strong nation. And then verse 8, it says, and thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come. It says, even the first dominion, the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. So here in Micah again, it's establishing that the kingdom is going to come to the daughter of Jerusalem, meaning again to the Israelites. So when it reads there that these people shall be cast out and the kingdom shall be given to a nation, bringing the fruits thereof, it has to be still speaking of the nation of Israel, because Micah is saying here in verse 8 that the first dominion, the kingdom, it speaks of specifically, shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem, the Israelites again. So Micah is prophesying that the kingdom is coming to the Israelites. So you have to interpret what Christ is saying there, that this nation that he's speaking of is speaking of Israel that's being reborn and bringing forth the fruits, not necessarily a completely different nation.
Hold on, let's let Gabar jump in. I haven't heard from Gabar. You want to jump in real quick? Go ahead.
As far as what's quoted, let me go back to it real quick. What's quoted in Matthew, what was that, 21 and 43? It says, "Therefore I say unto you, the kingdom of God shall be taken from you, and given to a nation, bringing forth the fruits thereof." I do see that as being the remnant.
And by the way, I apologize, fellas. We do have another caller standing by right after this one, so just letting y'all know. Okay, continue.
I do see that as being the remnant of Israel, the righteous versus the wicked of Israel, because you do have those who are Israelites. As you read up in verse 42, it says, "The Yahweh saith unto them, Did ye not ever read the scriptures? The stone which the builders rejected, the same is become the head and the corner. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." So we know that that's referring to our people who are going to reject the Messiah. So I can definitely see that this is referring to a remnant of Israel, and those that's the nation that's bringing forth the fruits thereof. Backtracking back to Matthew chapter 8 and verse 11 and 12, "And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven." I can see that being Israel, and I can see the nations that cleave to Israel coming with them, according to prophecy in Isaiah chapter 60. Because when the children of Israel are gathered from the east and from the west, and all those things that are spoken of in Isaiah 43, that would still be in conjunction with Isaiah 60 and that prophecy as well. Because if Isaiah is saying it in one place, then it has to match up with what Isaiah is saying in another place. So I would say that it is still concerning the nations as well. But again, that's according to the prophecy in Isaiah chapter 60, in terms of what their position is going to be whenever the children of Israel are gathered from the east and the west, and they're sitting down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. Because likewise in Isaiah chapter 2, it says that the nations are going to come up to Zion to learn the law. So I wouldn't say that it's not talking about Israel, though. I wouldn't say that either. I would say that Israel is included in that, and the nations that they cleave to, and the nations that cleave to them, that would be serving Israel, would be included in that as well. Just to paint the picture that Isaiah is saying in his prophecy, from chapter 2 to chapter 43, all the way to chapter 60. All those have to be in agreement with each other. So that's the picture that I would see that Isaiah is stating. And then when the Messiah is saying this, then when he's going into verse 12, it says, "But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out in darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Definitely that's those who are rejecting the stone that the builders refused, as it is spoken of in Matthew 23, which would be Israel who reject the Messiah. And I'll yield.
Was that Micah chapter 4 he was reading? Was that Micah chapter 4 you were reading?
I believe it was. I'm not sure if he's still on. I believe it was Micah chapter 4.
And he read verses what was that, 4 and 6?
I think 6 through 8. Micah 4, 6 through 8. If you go back,
Micah,
sure. Yeah, Micah 4 verses 6 through 8.
6 through 8. And I'm sitting up here and I'm reading this, and they shall be marred in the land of Assyria, with the sword in the sword land of Nimrod at her entrances, and he shall deliver us from Assyria. But one thing about it is what he negated. Let's read. So I'm thinking what he is trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong. He's saying that pretty much that the children from the east and the west are also referred to, or the Messiah was referring to Micah chapter 4. That's what he was saying?
No, he was saying that's referring to Isaiah 43. Well, about from the east and the west. That would be Isaiah 43 and verse 5.
Okay, yeah, and I understand that. That's talking about the restoration. But my point is, but Micah chapter 4, I'm trying to understand the connection with Micah chapter 4. But what we could do that another time. I mean, because I don't know if the brother, he probably hung up or Sal muted him, but that's fine. But let's go to other callers, Sal, if you don't mind.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm right here.
All right. So what was the point of you going to Micah chapter 4 again? What was the point?
The point of going to Micah chapter 4 was going back into Matthew, the 8th chapter, the last part. Read it again right quick.
No. I just want to ask you this question. So you're. Because I know what it says, but what was your point as far as the connection between Micah chapter 4 and Matthew chapter 8? What was the connection?
The connection was the kingdom. But the children of the kingdom, says, shall be cast out into utter darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. It says, right?
Yeah.
And then I went to Matthew 21, where it speaks of the same thing again and gets a little bit more clearer in Matthew 21 and verse 43. There it says, therefore say I unto you, the kingdom of God shall be taken from you and given to a nation bringing forth the fruits thereof. Similar to what it says there in the 8th chapter and the 13th verse. So me going to Micah, I'm going to Micah to show you that it speaks of Israelites as coming back, that he's going to make them a strong nation. In Micah chapter 4, verse 7 says that, and then verse 8 says that the first dominion, the kingdom, shall come to the daughter of Israel. So this is prophesying that the kingdom is coming to the children of Israel again. So the kingdom, speaking of there, to that nation that's bringing forth the fruits, will have to be the Israelite that comes back through the Messiah and bringing forth the fruits.
Okay, now I would disagree with that in Matthew 21, because at that point, in Matthew 21, where you read, I think that's in the 40s, that at that moment, the kingdom of heaven has not filled the earth. So at that time, when the Messiah is telling Israel, it's more so him explaining to them, since you choose to be wicked, your position will be taken and given to someone else. Now, in Matthew chapter 8, this is prophecy as far as talking about when the kingdom does fill the earth. Because at this time, he said in Matthew chapter 8, there's going to be many coming from the east and the west, sitting in the kingdom with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's when the kingdom has filled the earth. But in Matthew 21, that doesn't necessarily, I don't understand that, or I don't believe that to talk about the kingdom being full, filling the earth. That is Israel's position as God's chosen people at that time being taken away from them and given to the nations or the heathen or whichever you prefer. That's my stance on that.
Yeah, well, at the time of Christ, the children of Israel were scattered abroad. At the time of Jesus Christ, it was scattered to the east and to the west when Christ was speaking that prophecy. So even to this day, Israel is still scattered to the east and the west, the north and the south, all over the place. So that doesn't.
Are you saying Israel Gentiles?
No, I'm saying that when it says from the east and the west to be with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that according to Isaiah 43, it is letting you know that Israel is scattered to the east and the west. So don't go and say that it's speaking of real Gentiles, because Israel is scattered to the east and the west as well. It could also mean Israelites too as well.
But I'm not negating that Israel will not be in the kingdom. The Messiah was, in Matthew chapter 8, was making a point. Just because you think you Israel, don't mean you're going to automatically be in there. I think that was the point that the Messiah was making. And he is saying that the kingdom of heaven is open for all people who are willing to adhere and obey to the commandments of Christ. So now all of a sudden, I think there's I think we were I think what it is that I'm saying la la la, and you're saying lo lo lo. So what my point overall is, it's not negating Israel, but he was making a point to Israel, telling them many gonna come from the east or the west. He didn't specify who. He just said many. So it could be Israelites, which I wouldn't doubt. But there's also going to be various people coming from the east and the west. But he stressed, but the children of the kingdom. So my original question stands. If that's the case, if Israelites are coming from the east and the west, which I do agree, why would he specify the children of the kingdom will be suffering outside of the kingdom? There was a point he was making.
I'm going to let you answer that. I'm going to let you answer that, but we do have somebody standing by. I apologize, 9454. I apologize, but I'm going to let you go ahead and answer that, and after that we can move on. Yeah, bro.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here, brother.
Nah, you good. That was my mistake. You go ahead and answer that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What I'm saying is that the children of Israel that suffering outside the kingdom is not going to come until the Messiah comes. He's the one setting up the kingdom, and it talks about when he comes back, he shall send his elect, he shall send his angels, and they shall gather his elect from the four corners of the earth. It says, that's north, south, east, and west, and it talks about putting the sheep on one side and the goats on the other side. It speaks about in the kingdom when the Messiah comes back. So all these things are referring to the kingdom, the time of the kingdom when the Messiah is reigning. So that's why I went into Micah, and I showed that it says clearly in Micah chapter 4, verse 8, to say that the first dominion, the kingdom, it says specifically, shall be given to the daughter of Jerusalem, meaning the Israelites. So again, it's stating there again that the kingdom is going to be given to the Israelites. So here in Matthew chapter 8, the kingdom here, the children of the kingdom here that's cast out is the ones back then in the first century that rejected them, because we know that all Israel did not reject the Messiah in Judea, because he only went to the ones that was in Judea, but you had Israelites scattered all abroad as well. So the ones in Judea, them being the children of the kingdom, they're going to be cast out for rejecting the Messiah. But the ones scattered abroad, who the apostles and them went to, who accepted the Messiah, these are the ones coming in, bringing forth the fruit, and that be the nation that the kingdom is going to go to according to the prophecy.
And although, since you're here, I'm going to let people know about that segment coming up next week.
Oh, yeah, we have a segment coming up next week, speaking of the 400 years, because people are saying that this 400 years in Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 down, is fulfilled this year. The slave trade started in 1619, according to what they're saying, which is incorrect. And 2019 is going to make 400 years, so it's supposed to be fulfilled. So that's incorrect. So we're going to go off into that and show that that's incorrect and try to give you the correct understanding of what it's saying about the 400 years. Me and Gabar have went into the Paleo-Hebrew, and we have found some stuff that's like crazy, off the charts stuff we have found that we have never seen before. I've not heard anybody speak on these things before at all. And we're looking. So we are currently just going through the Paleo and try to bring it up from the Paleo-Hebrew, and hopefully we can have something concrete to give to you, some information that you have never heard before. So I advise you to tune into that show next Thursday, because you're going to hear some things that you probably ain't never heard before. Okay? With that, shalom.
All right, y'all. Check that out. Spiritual Food next week, Thursday. All right, so let's take this other caller. 954-683 alive.
Hey, greetings, Gabar and B.A. Of course, greetings, Sal. This is Messenger of Truth. It was difficult listening tonight. It really what I'm hearing, especially this last 30, 40, 50 minutes, sounds mostly about who is salvation for, whether it's for Israel or for Gentiles. It doesn't sound like you're still dealing with the actual topic, like what's the purpose of Israel. I think the answer is clear in scriptures. God himself said, I didn't choose Israel because they're a great nation and a mighty nation. I choose Israel because they're actually the smallest among nations, because that is one of God's characteristics. Everything in this Bible from Genesis to Revelation is glorifying God. People who are trying to elevate Israel as if Israel is the mark, that is heresy. It's never been about Israel. It has always been about God's glory and God's honor, God's purpose, and God's plan. Elevating anything into the position of God is heresy. It's actually a form of blasphemy. And I'm seeing that going on in a lot of modern-day religions. Everybody's trying to identify as Israel as opposed to identifying with Israel. There's so many different belief systems. I don't care what they are. Hebrew roots, Hebrew Israelites, sacred namers, Yeshuans, Seventh-day Adventists who think they're spiritual Israel, replacement theologists. Everybody all of a sudden thinks it's all about Israel. It's not. I did a show, something about Jesus is the key to it all, and I went through all the Old Testament books, giving an overview, and every prophet talks about the judgment, the wickedness, the rebellion, and of Israel. And they also, even some of them go into the nations, but every single book also gives hope, which is found in the Messiah. Or it talks about David, which is talking about the beloved one. It's not talking about King David. David means beloved. And in the New Testament, the person who's called beloved is Jesus, because the Father said, this is my beloved. This is the David I've been telling you about. This is my beloved son. Do as he tells you. So over and over and over, from prophet to prophet to prophet, it's talking about Israel's sin, Israel's rebellion, its waywardness. It even talks about Israel's judgment. And then it mentions Gentile nations in some books. But every single one also gives a sliver of hope, just a glimmer of hope. And every single time that happens, it's not about Israel coming to the law or Israel's obedience. Every single time God offers this message of hope, it's about the Messianic age or the Messiah. So everything is about God's glory. So that's one reason why Israel exists, because God choosing small, tiny Israel, insignificant sheep herders, is because that's God's character. Over and over and over, God chooses the small and the tiny and the insignificant things. Why? Because if he chose a mighty nation, that mighty nation would simply brag and say they did everything on their own power. But by God choosing the small and the insignificant things, he shows his own power through that tiny thing. That's why he chose Israel. So when you start talking about what's the purpose of Israel, the purpose of Israel is for God to magnify himself. Over and over and over, it's about God. To say that it's not about God, that's literally heresy. That's literally a sin against him. It is elevating a nation to a status that they should not be at. And everybody should know that when Lucifer said, I want to be like the Most High, that was enough to cause God to create hellfire. Trying to elevate something to God's status, he hates that. And he punishes it with hellfire. Now, when I look at Israel, and that's just in the Old Testament, that's just one thing. But then Paul even deals with this. He deals with this in Romans 3. He says, what advantage then has the Jew? In other words, what benefit is it to being an Israelite? And he says, or what profit is there of the circumcision? In other words, what good is it to be of the nation who is circumcised? In other words, what he's really saying is, what advantage do we have to being Israelites? And what's so different about us? He does say much in every way, especially because unto Israel were committed the oracles of God. That's what he says. Because unto Israel was committed the oracles of God. In other words, the word, the prophets, the law, the commands, the history. All of that was given to Israel as a type of caretaker. This is the word of God. This has never been the word of Israel. It belongs to him. No nation can claim it for themselves. It belongs to him. If I write something, if it belongs to me, and I give it to my neighbor, who in the world gives my neighbor the right to act like it's his? All he can say is, I'm humbled by the fact that I've given it to him as a caretaker, not as a co-author or as an owner. That's where these belief systems go too far. You step over the boundaries. So Paul deals with that as well. But reality shows something. From Adam to us, it's been 6,000 years. 6,000 years. Peter said, one day is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years like a day. For the first 2,000 years, rounding it off, for the first 2,000 years, Israel didn't even exist. How can you be a light to the nations when you don't even exist? For the second 2,000 years, all I see in the scriptures is rebellion, God literally threatening Israel to wipe them from the face of the earth. We see sin, we see idol worship, we see more rebellion, we see more of God's threats to even divorce Israel. He said Israel is a harlot, and I've got my papers of divorce ready to divorce her. He told Israel in the book of Ezekiel he was going to wipe them out from the face of the earth multiple times since Moses. In fact, when we go back to Moses' lifetime, he told Moses, come away from these people. I'm going to wipe out every single male, woman, boy, and girl, and I'm going to start over with you. If Moses wouldn't have pleaded with God, God would have wiped out the entire nation. So Ezekiel was saying from the very beginning up until this very day, God has been consistently tempted to just wipe this nation out. But God says, because of my promise to Abraham, and because of my name's sake, in other words, because of my character and my reputation, that's the only reason Israel still exists to this very day. Otherwise, I would have wiped them out clean. This is what the prophets are saying. The prophets are not elevating Israel. Nowadays, everybody talks about prophets like they're supposed to be some sort of special people. Back then, people did not want to be prophets because it was a dangerous occupation. Telling the truth gets you into hot fire. This is why they killed the prophets. This is why they killed them, because the prophets are always telling them that they're wicked, which is the truth. So for the first 2,000 years, Israel didn't exist. The second 2,000 years, all I see is sin. The third 2,000 years, the Jews have been scattered. So at what point in human history has Israel ever been a light to the nations? It's never been a light to the nations. That passage is about the Messiah and the Messiah only. And as I say, elevating people into the position of God is sin. This stuff about this being Israel, this is New Age stuff. This is what the Jews invented to cover up the fact that they rejected the Messiah. This is new stuff. This isn't what ancient Israel believed. They knew it was about a future Messiah king.
And, you know, I agree with you.
Hold on, Mr. Truth, because we only got a few minutes left of the air, y'all. So I'm going to let y'all respond. Go ahead, though. Y'all can respond.
No, I agree with you, Messenger, as far as when it comes to when the only light is Yeshua. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in my stance, the purpose was for Israel. They were supposed to be that light, but they failed. And the Messiah is the one who came and established and showed everyone what it means to fulfill the will of the Most High God. So I agree with you, number one. Christ is the only light. But this elevation of Israel, I do understand that as well, that people are elevating Israel way too high. And I think that's more so of a Hebrew Israelite thing. And when a lot of us come into this understanding of this thinking, it just for some reason that spirit, it just provokes us to think that way. And I'm at the point in my life now to where if I am of a Jake, that's fine, but my goal was to bring people to Christ. And my purpose this evening was to show that Christ is the only standard. Israel, yeah, if Israel's being righteous and they're doing it right, and they're doing right by the Most High, through Christ, okay, fine, no problem. But still, I do agree with you as far as when they say, or when people, as what you said earlier, this elevation of Israel above the Most High. It's like the Most High can't do nothing without Israel when the Most High is the Creator. So I do understand your point. I agree with you 100%. And like I said, the purpose overall was to show the purpose of Israel. But then when we have these kind of conversations, I'm not saying about Gabar, but when these conversations do come up, it seems like at times we do get hung up over who is and who was here and who was this talking about, who came from the east and the west and so forth. So, and I was hoping to avoid that. But sometimes a conversation can go according to plan. Sometimes it can go off. But overall, for the most part, I believe that me and Gabar, even despite our disagreements, we're very cordial with each other, and they turn into a shouting match. But I appreciate the brother coming on. I do appreciate you with coming on and saying the words you said as well. And that's all I have to say.
Cool. Yeah, let Gabar respond. You want to respond, Gabar?
Yeah, we're just real quick. I know we don't have long. So I do want to say this. I do agree with what Messenger of Truth is saying about the Most High. He has to magnify himself and his word, which is the purpose of Israel. I believe, because again, in Isaiah 60, it does say that, that his glory is going to be seen in them. So the purpose of Israel is for the Most High to be magnified in them, to show his power. I do agree with you 100% on that. At times, yes, Israel is put above even the Most High's word, and even above His law. Okay, I do agree with that. That at times that does happen, and we do need to understand that it's really about the Most High at the end of the day. Now, in regards to what you were saying about being the caretakers of His word, this is why I was going back to the point of having the higher accountability, because again, to keep His commandments, which is the Hebrew word shamar, which is to guard, to protect, to watch over, that is likewise the purpose of Israel, because that's how the Most High is supposed to be glorified, is through His word, is through His law, is through His testimony, which is of His only begotten Son. That was given to the nation of Israel to be caretakers of, and that failed. But what I would say is that though they failed, because of His love and His mercy, and His goodness, and the grace, that is still something that is to come to pass. Because again, otherwise it wouldn't be prophesied. It otherwise wouldn't be prophesied in Isaiah 60 as well as in other verses, about the Most High magnifying Himself in the nation of Israel. But again, I know we don't have much time left, so I just want to go ahead and yield there. I do want to thank you, Brother B.A., for coming on with me, and I do think that we did get a lot covered, and I think that we did come to an agreement on a lot. I do see that there are still some differences there, but we were definitely cordial. And to the callers that called in, Messenger of Truth, and Amion, just want to thank y'all for y'all's opinions on things and the things that you shared, and the knowledge and the wisdom that you shared. And Brother B.A., I hope that we can do this again. We can continue to have these conversations, and we can continue to try to get on the same page and to get on one accord. And I think that what we displayed this evening is that it can be done. Despite the differences, we can definitely talk and still find some common ground on some things. So I think that that there were some gaps that were filled. for the both of us. There's still some there, but I do think that's for a field. So, and then Brother Sal, I just want to thank you once again for allowing us to come on here and allowing us to have this dialogue. And again, I hope that there'll be many more in the future. I want everybody to tune in next Thursday to the Spiritual Food segment, and hopefully it'll be a good one, and y'all can learn something. With that, my voice is getting parched, so I'm going to go ahead and yield there. And with that, I just want to say, may the Most High increase you all in the name of the God the Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, and may bless you all. Shalom.
Yo,
I gotta be your last words.
Yeah, thank you, Gabar, and thank the Most High first of all. Praise the Most High in the name of His only known as Yeshua, the Christ. And I appreciate everybody coming out who listened. Appreciate those who pressed the one to tap in. Most definitely, I know we've had our differences, but Most High will continue to patch those things out and work everything out accordingly. Appreciate MOT, Messenger of Truth, for coming in and laying down some of that knowledge, you know what I'm saying? Most definitely appreciate the brother Gabar. Yes, we most definitely come to find out we have a lot that we agree with, but we have our differences, but we were able to hash out or at least discuss our differences cordially as men, as brothers. And that's what it's all about. We can have our differences, but there's a way to go about it. As you can see, it's not about entertaining. It's about coming together and speaking as brothers. It's not about attacking the next man over his knowledge or his stance. It's about understanding. And if you don't have the spirit of understanding, then why are you doing this? So I most definitely appreciate Gabar. Thank you, Sal. Much love to all. Have a good night. Shalom.